we actually are closing a deal tomorrow where the seller called me back a year later. He's like, I only called you back because you're the only person who actually talked to me. Like, I knew I couldn't help him or I wasn't a good fit at the time. And I told him that. And he called me back and we just got the deal done for him. So, like, those conversations, you might not see the return now. But again, like, I'm not in for the quick money. Wealth building takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So if you can, again, focus on the art of the deal and really building relationships with people, deals will come back around and you'll find more consistency.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Evergreen Marketing Podcast by Carrot.com. I'm your host, Brett Iwanowicz, and I'm super excited today to talk with a new friend. Actually, not a new friend. He's been on the podcast before, been with Carrot a long time, but this guy is doing 30 to 40 deals a year right now. Netted personally over 400K in the business last year, but that is not the main thing. That looks really sexy from the outside, and we are going to talk about how he does this remote business from Guatemala, where he's getting leads, systems, process, team structure. We're going to go over all that, but there's something more here about running as he would call it, a boring business model, and some of the impact and vision that's really driving him to have this really successful business without getting out of control and scaling like crazy. He's a unique guy, really unique story, and I'm super excited to share him with you and dive into it. So without further ado, Brett, welcome back to the podcast, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a really cool opportunity. You know, I don't share so much stuff on social media anymore. So just to be recognized, some value to bring to the show is pretty awesome. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. You're doing good work, and I want to dive into it. So let's give people some context at the stage. Are you in Guatemala or New York right now? You're in Guatemala, right?
Yeah. So we are living in Antigua, Guatemala. And if you don't know anything about Guatemala, you can Instagram and have your heart's delights with all the influencers coming out here over the past few years. But my wife is from Antigua, Guatemala, and I was introduced to her through a mutual friend who is now director at a school we work with here. And so that's why I'm back and forth between upstate New York and Rochester and Antigua, Guatemala.
Okay, Rochester. We just had Greg Hellbeck. Are you familiar with Greg?
Mm-hmm.
We just had him on the podcast recently, a couple episodes on like how to negotiate and vet leads in tough markets. Like it's East Coast is competitive over there.
It can be, yeah. You know, when I made the big transition out here in 2021 and it was end of 2021 into 2022. And I went from, just getting comfortable in the living room to having to change all my processes to negotiate over the phone. Completely different type of negotiating because people can hang up on you if you ask them something that upsets them. That doesn't happen in person. But anyways, we really didn't have much competition as far as virtual people. I never had a virtual person get in the way of a deal. And now it's one of our biggest hurdles to building trust with sellers again after they're disappointed.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's break it down. What's the business model? If you don't, what's the business model? What's the team structure look like? And what did last year look like in terms of deals, revenue, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So team wise, I guess I'm adding another team member. So we would be, so there's Chris. I actually brought him onto the team. I reached out to him on a whim. And you said earlier, there was more than just the money here. And so I was feeling unfulfilled spiritually. And so I decided to reach out randomly to someone in our market. His name's Chris Wise. What's up, Chris? He's a 23-year-old. And I saw him trying to get things done. And I'm like, you know what? For some reason, I feel like I need to reach out to him. So now he's kind of making a transition onto the team. First, I started working on just joint venturing and help him learn about marketing and sales. Then I have a sales manager. His name is Dylan. What's up, Dylan? Yeah. He does the in-person appointments. And then we have a lead manager named Atik. He's awesome. I brought him on a little over a year ago, and he's in Bangladesh. So he's a virtual assistant for us. He's our lead manager. And then my job is essentially marketing, team management, KPIs, SOPs, all that stuff.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll touch back on the gentleman you're bringing aboard, the 23-year-old, maybe towards the end of the podcast. That's
Cool.
interesting. So you're doing systems and process. You know marketing, you know acquisitions, you know how to comp, you know how to find good deals. What did last year look like in terms of revenue, and what kind of deals are you doing? Like what's the business model?
Yeah, so we're just primarily assigning deals. I just started buying rentals again. After taxes are a whole nother discussion, so we don't need to go down that road. But
Yeah.
I just started buying rentals again last year, but we're mostly assigning everything. I just took down a flip this year. Sometimes I have some partners now that I trust enough, where if the wholesale fee is maybe only like 10 grand, I'll still pay my acquisition manager his cut, but we'll take that down if we have a greater potential to renovate it and resell it. But last year we did 36 deals. That was, I think, 760,000 gross, which was maybe in the mid to upper threes for my take home last year. Yeah, so we keep it pretty slim. That was one of the most important things for me, is like, what kind of business can I maintain that allows me flexibility? Now, I can't sit in front of my computer and work 10 hours a day like I did yesterday, but I
Yeah.
also have the availability to have flexibility to travel. Like, we were in Europe, went to Italy, Switzerland, and then Spain, over the course of a trip, or going away for long weekends. We were just in Colombia for our wedding anniversary. So it does allow us that flexibility, and I'm still working sometimes on these trips, but I do have the opportunity to step away. So it's been really awesome to have the support from our team.
Mhm.
We have a really good team dynamics. We hold a couple team meetings a month, and we're all really here just encouraging and helping each other. So I've been really blessed to have
Mhm.
a really awesome team.
That's really cool, man. Yeah, it sounds like you've done something special to kind of have a really efficient team, but also a team that has like a high level of trust, you know?
Yeah. Well, just to talk about trust, my Dylan, who does our in-person appointments, he also has his own business that he operates out of Buffalo, and he will do deals in Rochester. So at sometimes if you look at it from a different perspective, someone could say, "Well, isn't he your competition?" And in some ways, yes, that's true. But we have such a great relationship where that trust is there, where we've never felt like we're competing with each other, and it's been a really good dynamic. And he probably made more money than me than I did last year, but I don't, that, yeah, like you said, it's not necessarily about what you're taking home. There's more to this business than just a big paycheck, and I think that's something that we'll definitely talk about on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so funny. You hired your competition and it's still working out really well. And I think it'll continue to.
Yeah,
That's
we're
cool.
going on three years, I think, now, and he was working for a competitor. They exited New York, and then I brought him on, and the conversation was, I'm not sure if I want to start my own business or not, Brett, but I'll work with you. We're still working together while he's, building his own business, and it's been working really well together.
That's sweet, man.
Mhm.
How long were you grinding? How long was it just you working those long days before you brought help on?
So I started this business right around COVID.
Okay.
Um, but it took me a year to actually put together like a tried and true business model. So 2025, I would consider actually my fifth full year just straight wholesaling.
Okay.
So it's
Sweet.
still I would call a business in the early stages of growth.
Yeah.
Um, but every year, we've been adding multiple six figures to the income. Like, I'm pretty sure we should be able to gross close to 1 million this year, just tweaking some of our KPIs that we fell short on last year. Um, we kept it really simple. To get to that million, it's just all we needed to have is one more closing a month. So how many leads do we need to generate? And it was that in combination with increasing our offer percentage. And
Yeah.
that's all we would need to do. So I just broke that down to some of the simplest KPIs. And if we hit it, awesome. If we don't,
Yeah.
like, it's cool either way.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
So you were going for a few years. Um, how did you go about that transition from it being just you to like, okay, I need to get a team in place? It just kind of happened naturally, or were you like, okay, I need this specific type of
Yeah.
person?
So when I was home in Rochester, just getting everything running, it was me. So to go back to your question, that I apologize, I skipped over. It was probably about a little over a year and a half, where I was trying to figure everything out on my own, create the systems, talking to sellers, running the appointments, running the marketing. And then when I moved to Guatemala, I realized I needed to start hiring some virtual assistants. And so I instead of hiring third parties, I wanted control over what everybody was doing. And so I had to, so I was working 8 to 10 hours a day, every day, probably for that full year in Guatemala. Cause I'm, I'm training people, hiring people, learning a new sales process over the phone, truthfully, if it wasn't for being in certain masterminds and meeting people, I know without a doubt I wouldn't have been able to do it. In fact, I called on one of my now friends, Josh Bacon, in that group to, like, I knew I had a good business. I didn't have the framework or KPIs set up to know how to manage it and grow it a certain way. So he came in and we met every Friday for, I think, like 4 months. Might have been less than that, but that's all it took to transition to move to another country, which was really awesome. It was fast. It went like this. Yeah.
That's wild. That seems like
Yeah.
a really clean transition. It seems like you've got a lot of the systems and process stuff down naturally. You're very organized. Did that come from something you did before real estate? What were you doing before this?
No, man. Do you know how entrepreneurs have the squirrel syndrome? Do you know what that is?
Oh,
They see
100%.
every nut that falls from the tree they chase. Well, that's me.
Yeah.
And so, I've been in real estate, probably in total, maybe 14 or 15 years, but I had bought a bunch of rentals. I was flipping. I was in property management. I had a painting company. Like, you name it, I was trying to do it. And there was a transition point where I said enough was enough. I need to focus. And I sold an owner-occupied property, made about 6 figures, and I basically used that money to stop doing everything else and focus on being a full-time investor. I had no idea what that meant. I had no vision. I had no clarity and no direct steps to do that. But that's why I hired a coach.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
came across. Have you heard of Life in There?
I have, yeah,
Cool.
from a couple people. I haven't dove in, but I know the guy.
So there was a 3-day event here. It's called Get a Life Getaway, where they help you craft a vision. And the cool thing was, it's like life first, business second. So your business should not corrupt the life you want, right? Or shouldn't interfere with the life you want. And I'm like, this is BS. I'm like, this is not. I'm like, these guys are up here telling me they work 3 or 4 hours a day and they're making all this money and have this amazing life. So I went in spite of that, like, this is a lot. So I'm like, I got to go and figure out what this is about. And so I went to that 3-day and I just went all in. I just put my heart into it. And at the end of it, they said there was an opening. And so Steve Cook started Life in There. And they asked me if I wanted to be coached by him. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who this guy is, but he started it. He must be somebody important. And that was history. And that's kind of what got me started, the journey of understanding the importance of a vision and following a vision.
Okay, nice. So what was the vision? What did you walk away from that event with? It seems like it was clear.
I walked away with understanding that I'm a mess.
Like probably every other entrepreneur there.
Yeah, that's what I walked away with. In fact, when I joined that group, I didn't find this out until years later. Some people were like, "Why is this guy in this mastermind group? He's a mess. He doesn't need to be here. He's not. He has no idea which way is up and down." So that's essentially what I walked away with. Man, I have no idea what I want. And so so I want to say the whole time I worked with Steve, it was really less about business and more about mindset and vision, and really dialing what that looked like.
Yep. Interesting. So what's the thing that drives you in your business? Like what's the thing at the end of the day? Earlier you mentioned like you were unfulfilled spiritually. Every entrepreneur, we have those ups and downs and motivations where some days we're like, want to work 10 hours a day. We love it. And some days we don't want to get up out of bed to work in our own business. What's the vision that keeps pushing you?
The vision, like, I don't know if I could just describe it. It's just being fulfilled, and that could be traveling, that could be family, that could be friends, and not feeling like you're stuck in a job, basically. So I mean that's a very broad vision in a sense, because a vision should be something broken down into simple steps. But that's the broad vision, I think. And I think everyone has that vision, but they tend to let other people's goals determine their next steps, which I see a lot. And the cool thing about being in the mastermind that I was in, I was able to get, I wasn't really focusing so much on business as I was on mindset, but I got to see a lot of very successful entrepreneurs scale and then say, this isn't what I want. And then they just start from scratch again and go small. So like I've got to really see the cool dynamic, or people like getting there and be like, I'm totally unfulfilled. Like, what do I do now? And we were just we had a mastermind come out here to Guatemala, and one of the gentlemen, Justin, that attended, and they were able to get out of the rat race with the rhinos, which most people either can't figure out or they don't make it out alive because it's brutal. And they did, and now they're at the point where like, well, what do we do next? So I think for me, it's like I don't want to get to the point of this big mountain and be like, now I'm unfulfilled. So how can you have the balance of life, business, in combination of the two, when you're not trying to climb this big mountain all the time. There's just an equal balance of the two.
Interesting. So it's almost like you got a sneak peek at other investors, entrepreneurs who had scaled their businesses or growing, but still were not content, not fulfilled, not happy, because they're just always, the goalpost is always moving, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. It's always, and we had another friend, Brendan Reed. He's out there in Orlando, and he had 4 or 5 acquisition managers working with him, and he just cut it all and went back to solo entrepreneur again, because the grind is like when you build a machine, it's like you have to keep building it. It's just like a monster that just you can never feed.
Yeah.
So I think that was the one thing that I realized I did not want. Like I could go make more money, but at what cost? And then at the end of the day, if you do the math, like making more money really doesn't net you much more.
Yeah.
After the cost, and the cost is more than just money, it's also your time. So if you weigh the two next to each other, it really is never worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. I think we'll come back to impact in a little bit. I have some more questions there, but let me know. I'm really curious. Okay, so you went to this mastermind. You realize, okay, I'm a mess. I need to get organized. I got a vision for my business. I need to focus, go all in. How did that trickle down into the business model? Let's talk about like, maybe we start with lead sources, what you're doing for marketing.
Sure.
We talk about this all the time on the podcast, but you and I know it, but a lot of people don't realize like the vision trickles down to the business model, and for the business model, it trickles down to the type of marketing you're doing.
Yep.
And not enough people pause to think about, okay, is this marketing giving me energy or draining my energy?
Yeah.
Is it sustainable? Is it getting the types of leads that I want to get to support the business model?
Yep.
And instead, people just go, oh, well, my coach told me cold calling, or I saw a YouTube video that says I should probably try direct mail. So they throw money in one direction.
Yeah. So I can tell you, if you're looking for a coach, look for the coach that doesn't tell you what to do. That's not a coach's job. That's a consultant. So if you're looking for a coach, that's the difference. But anyway, so the trickle down effect for me, number one was it goes even deeper. So in order for me to get started marketing, I needed confidence. I didn't have confidence, so I learned how to borrow other people's confidence. So, and you can do that with a coach. And the great thing about these masterminds is you have access to more than one person. Sometimes 15, 20 people that you have access to call to say, hey, this happened. What should I do next? To call for encouragement, to call to discuss, to review sales calls together. So the first thing that got me started to even focus on different marketing channels was confidence. And once I was able to develop confidence in my calls, then it's like at that point when I got started, I'm doing every I guess a beginner starts with is do everything that they can, right? And they want to write letters, they want to cold call, they want to door knock, like whatever you can do to afford. And the thing about marketing is that's almost how marketing works, right? I wouldn't suggest doing all those things. But at some point you have to test marketing channels. But like, what is the one marketing channel that you could afford to do for the longest period of time? And so for me at the time, it was texting when it worked.
Yeah, I was about to say
When it
in
worked.
2020, in 2021.
Yeah, when it worked. And so I just hit the tail end of texting. Just to give an example, like I probably was spending the first year I moved to Guatemala, and we did probably, this might not be a lot of money to some people, but before that I wasn't really making much of anything, right? But I think we did like 460, 470 gross. So I probably made 2.25 or something like that. But texting only cost me like, $35,000-$40,000 a year. So the ROI was insane. Now I'm spending, a couple $100,000 a year for multiple marketing channels that sometimes, like last year, we spent all year testing different things because about mid 23, texting was dying. So we were texting PPC, direct mail. So get back to the whole, what are we doing for marketing? Right now we're doing direct mail. We do a little bit of Facebook. We do PPL and SEO. SEO is always something that I believed in because, again, back to my vision, I started investing in SEO because, I wanted to build local credibility, which I think is incredibly important, especially with dealing with out-of-state buyers, but also like long-term, I don't have to continue to invest a lot of money in SEO to get deals. So when I, put this on pause or let somebody take over, I can easily manage SEO with very minimal investment in the future.
Okay. 2 questions on that. And I want to come back to lead gen. Why do SEO on Carrot? Like, why do you use Carrot in general? And then how'd you go about SEO at a high level? Like, did you outsource it? Do it yourself?
So again, if you're going to do something good, you have to learn to focus on one thing. So to answer your question about marketing, I hired third-party companies to do marketing for me. Now, because for me getting started, in order to make money, so there's one thing to generate a lead, there's another thing to close a lead. So like when I got started, texting was pretty easy, but as far as SEO goes, I started working with Carrot, number one, because I felt like they were a trusted, accredited business that I could trust them in performing for me. And also Trevor, I know Trevor and I talk every now and then, but you can tell when someone is sincere and genuine. So he really resonated with me, and I think that translated into the team and the people that I talked with at Carrot. And so that's kind of what brought me into using Carrot. Carrot did my SEO for a while. Then I actually started using, it wasn't that Carrot wasn't doing the right thing. You guys been growing and changing over the years, so things change. Yeah. So I moved over with Adrian Nez, and if you know Adrian, unfortunately, he passed away during COVID. And now I'm working with Keith Sant with SEO meets REI. So I can afford to pay someone to do that now, but getting started, Care provided the tools where there wasn't really a lot of upfront costs to kind of get the ball rolling there.
Yeah, gotcha. So we kind of laid the foundation, gave you the content, gave you the tools, and you finished the rest with DIY. Like you're working on the pages, you're doing the blog posts. And then it got to a point where like, okay, this is working. I'm generating leads, but you needed to scale it. So went with partners. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And the only way that I was able to find those right people is just being out there and traveling and going to these different masterminds. That's how I met Adrian. That's how I got connected with him. I met Keith. I think it was through one of the care groups that I met Keith. So like, you're probably going to hear me talk about masterminds or coaching a lot because like it has such a huge impact. I mean, you've heard the saying, your net worth is your network, right? And that's true. So like you want to make sure that you're around people. If I wasn't putting myself around people that wanted to had similar visions, I probably would be in the rat race of trying to grow this big animal. So I put myself around the right people that understood where I wanted to take my business, and they were to help me get there.
Yeah. And they understood the marketing you were trying to do.
Yep.
What's the probably my last question on lead gen? What's the lead quality like? So you're doing PPL, Facebook, SEO. What are the best lead sources?
Right now, I want to say it's direct mail. That is the most expensive. SEO has been, again, I mentioned virtual people. There's been a lot more competition on those SEO leads because, they're filling out multiple forms. And And unfortunately, virtual people are like, what do you want for your home? Well, I want $250,000. I'll give it to you, and that
Yeah.
disrupts like a real sales process. So that's been the struggle with SEO. So right now, it's top of the list is direct mail, SEO, PPL, and then Facebook. Facebook is new. I'm testing it. I'm not spending a lot of money. I'm managing myself. I'm only spending about $500 a month. So
Yeah.
the thing for Facebook is just the retargeting when people go to our website. So that's really what I'm more interested in. But we're starting to pick up a little momentum on that Facebook leads, and eventually at some point. So right now I'm basically in the data collecting phase on Facebook. So I'm running my ads collecting data. So at the end of this year, I can have data, then I can go talk to some providers and they can look at our data and probably, try to craft something a little bit better than what I'm doing at the moment.
That's huge, man. I mean, retargeting is cheap, especially when you're doing other marketing channels. You're creating demand. People are going to your website. It's super important to have that Facebook pixel on your website so you can retarget people with Facebook ads. I mean, there's so many deals you can pick up just by retargeting people who have already been to your site and forgot or moved on, or maybe the time wasn't right.
Yep. Yeah. So I think people are getting sick of my face on Facebook, but that's okay. That's the whole point of retargeting, right? You're always in front of people.
Yeah, the whole sentiment about like it takes people 7 times to hear about you before they make a decision, like very much true, if not higher.
Exactly.
Who are you using for PPL, and what's that like? Because I hear so many mixed things I hear so many mixed reviews on PPL, which makes sense because every pay-per-lead provider is not the same.
Right. So Keith got me in touch with, I think I'm doing my Google search. Because I feel like everyone just motivate. I think it's motivated sellers or motivated. Hold on, I'm going to pull this. Yeah. Motivated sellers. It's called now. No, that one's not it. That used to be Need to Sell My House Fast. So property leads.
Property leads. Yes. Thank you. It's on the tip of my tongue. I was like, okay, that's Andy's. Yeah.
I don't like PPL, to be honest with you. Sometimes I wonder why I still pay for it. Sometimes we'll get good leads in, but there's far more bad leads than good leads. So I, even with Need to Sell, and I've talked to so many people about that site. Everyone thinks that they make up their own leads, and they have some type of system to bid you up in order to pay more, which I found to be true because I kept testing it, and I ended up I was paying like $380 for a lead for them because you don't want people to outbid you. You're like, I'm gonna out. That's what they want, right? They want you to be like, this is not gonna let this guy take my lead, yada yada. So like at one point I was paying like $300 and $80 for a lead, and I'm like, this is insane. I'm just gonna put my bid back to $75. Guess what happened? Started getting those leads again.
Ooh, interesting.
So, and then you'll get a lot of people will be like, hey, I never filled out a form. And then I'll screenshot the form and be like, so this wasn't you? And they're like, no, I didn't do that. So there's a lot of stuff. I don't necessarily know what happens with those. I mean, we'll do a couple deals or more a year, but it's definitely something that I'm always back and forth on of should I continue to invest in this marketing channel?
Yeah, and it's so for you, it's a tangential thing right now. So you pick up some deals here and there, but it does take a little more time to sift through.
Yeah. And we're not, I mean, the thing about Rochester is we're not a tiny city. I think the population is 200 and something thousand in Rochester. But we don't generate a ton of leads. Like I've got my, KPI spreadsheet because I think that's something the listeners probably want to understand. Like my goal is to gross around 100 leads a month. And that might not seem like a lot to people, and that should bring us to 3. All we need this year are 3 closings to do $1 million.
Yeah.
So 3 closings is 5.5 contracts. But in order to do that, we need about 100 leads, and we generated 70 in January, 52 in February. Obviously, real estate is seasonal, so we'll see those numbers creep up come springtime. But yeah, and I don't know if it's like this in every market, but for me, I think it works really well with my business because in order for me to exponentially make more money, I'm going to have to exponentially spend a lot more. So we're talking $100,000 to $200,000 more in marketing. And that's just not something that I would ever want to do. Then I got to hire another salesperson, train them. It's just, just building a beast.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep.
It's harder to scale. Your margins thin out a little bit.
Yeah.
If you get your KPIs up, I'd love to hear those. If you want to share kind of how you look at your KPIs.
Yeah, so I'll do a plug for Resimply. If you guys don't know what Resimply is, I'm not a person that really plugs things, but I've been with them kind of since the fruition. Actually, when I had my podcast, I interviewed Sharad. He's the developer. Probably the best CRM that's out there. And I know you guys have your own CRM now.
I was gonna say we got to get you on Carrot CRM, put it to the test, man.
No, man, I am loyal to the T. But they're always doing a lot of updates and things on there. But they just generated a new one to basically you can tag your lead gen, so you can.
Yeah.
So now we've got our KPIs by the different marketing campaigns, and then we can track different mail pieces, track the time of the year. So it's really cool. You can really boil down is narrow that I'm not that smart when it comes to this stuff. I'm still learning, but you can really get as granular as you want with your KPIs. So just to kind of give you an idea, like in our CRM right now, we generated this year a total of 173 leads. 42 of those were qualified. That resulted in 27 appointments. We made 21 offers. We've got 8 under contract, and we've closed 2 so far this year.
Okay, nice.
So just some of the conversions, like it takes about 6.4 leads to get an appointment. It's 1.29 appointments to an offer, which is pretty good. And we're 2.63 offers to a contract. And this gets broken down even more. So, it's 10 offers to a deal and 21 leads to a contract.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, those are really good numbers, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're bringing in quality leads. You got SEO, PPC, Facebook ads. Yeah. And it sounds like very targeted direct mail. And you've been doing that for a while.
So I just started direct mail. No, this is my first full year doing direct mail by myself. I took it in house. So I hired a provider at the end of, it was like towards the tail end of 23 into 24.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, I'm not going to say any names, but it was just a disaster. Like, it's better to get something started than not to do it at all, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely made money. But my gut told me that something was off, and I dove further into, and this is where I had to rely on my network. I had to call people and be like, what do you think of this? Or what's going on? And like, something's missing here, like point me in the right direction. So finally I got into the data. I got into their list, and there was just garbage. We were mailing prospects that were well above our price point. We were mailing people outside of the properties weren't even in New York. The square footage wasn't dialed in. Like, we know a specific square footage. We know the locations, we know the zip codes, we know the price points. And so that was a really good learning experience to, again, if you guys are looking for a third party individuals to do your marketing, just take into consideration, number one, they're never going to care as much as you do. But you should always know, and you should know enough to know to be able to protect yourself. Right. Yeah. So if you're going to hire someone to do something, you should have a network where you can rely on to bring them the data and say, hey, this is what's going on. Help me figure this out. And so I very well could have stayed with that direct mail house company if I didn't have the network that I do. And I might be in the negative right now. So I was able to cut my marketing costs by like 38% going to the direct source to working with the mail house. I'm able to make all my own creatives, track all my own creatives, track all the shipments, the mailing, the deliveries. And then I'm sourcing all my data from PropStream, and I'm building all of those lists. Again, just learning from other people over the course of the years on who to target, and then ultimately knowing who we do business with in New York, and then just building out those filters to build those lists.
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah. A lot more work, but and a little more trial and error and testing, but that's your thing. Yep. You're good at it. So you can make the list and make the creative. Yeah.
And that's, I think, to go as far as like being just a small lean company, you have to you mentioned the quality of leads. Like, you have to be lean to maintain you have to stay lean, because spend can get out of control. So, it's been a huge learning curve, but I can definitely appreciate the difficulties figuring all that stuff out. And that's also, man. You mentioned, like, what drives you. I think that's what kind of drives me now. Initially getting started, like, you are more apprehensive to challenging yourself, right? But I think I have somewhat of a competitive spirit where like, I hate when sellers tell me no. I've had so many sellers hang up on me just because I really want to know why, and so I won't hang up. But just having that type of drive like has been helpful to force myself to learn these things that I used to absolutely hate. So I hate math. I hate numbers. In fact, college. Have you ever read the book Personality Isn't Permanent?
No, I have not.
So it's a book about labels. So this is why I hate traditional schools, because they basically place labels on kids, and then kids feel like they're stuck. Like I'm stupid, right? I only learn this way, or this is the only one way to learn. It's a really good book.
Yeah.
But the author mentioned that he struggled with a label around math. Like math made him feel really stupid and stole all his confidence. So he labeled himself not smart because he wasn't good at math. I did the same thing, which was crazy. So it really resonated with me. So learning to like dive into the numbers was something that I never thought I could do or be able to manage. So again, just having that support network to like let me know I'm going in the right direction was a huge step. And again, stealing other people's confidence and building your own up at the same time. So
I like that borrowed confidence.
Yeah.
That's good. I'll have to check out the book too. That sounds super interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of painted a picture for lead gen. Let's talk about, Dispo. How are you doing deals remotely? Like any tools you're using that are really helpful? How do you do this remotely? Living in Guatemala?
Sorry to say this, man, but it's my CRM.
We got all the things you rattle off. I'm like, we've had that in the CRM since day one.
No, we just built out a list of local buyers. We post our deals on Facebook, although we're very careful to do so now because we're finding out that people are trying to poach our deals lately. So that's a whole nother conversation we can go down if you want. But every now and then we'll post on Facebook. So initially that's how I was building my buyers list. I traded buyers list with Dylan, who does our acquisitions now. So, we traded buyers lists. So we were both able to build our buyers list that way. And, there's people are interested in deals. I hear from a friend. And so we just push out our deals through our CRM via email and text. And then we basically do every property we put under contract. We have an inspection contingency period. We do a 1-day walkthrough where our buyers can walk through. And then we work on taking, say, the best offer. I didn't say the highest offer. We take the best offer the next day.
Okay, nice. Any sort of like email style or template that's working really well for you? Like simple, extravagant?
Dude, it is the simplest email. We have 4 photos. We have a title, a price. But the thing we direct people, so we have a hosting site through Carrot that we post all our deals. So all the details of that deal, how to work with us, the property details, all the photos, like anything that a buyer would need to do their due diligence on the Carrot site. So we just give them enough information and we provide the links for them to click on to head to the Carrot site. And then on the Carrot site, there's some prompts if you want to let us know you're making it out to the appointment, or if you want to partner with us, make an offer. Those prompts are on that website.
Nice. Okay. So email's dead simple. Just give them a tease, high level overview, and then, go to the website. If you're serious, get the details.
Yep. So text and email is how we get in touch with our buyers. And sorry to say this again, but recently now they have this is really cool. So you can actually skip trace. So in a lead, there's a buyer section where you can skip trace and they'll provide all the buyers. So it tells you how many homes they bought, when they bought them. And so if you want to build your buyers list, you can just call and text those people and then add them to your buyers list for future deals. So that was something they just rolled out, which we haven't really used too much yet, but we're starting to mess around with.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'll have to take a look at it. It sounds like it's useful. It's helpful.
Yeah, because upstate is huge. So 80% of the population of New York lives around New York City. So the rest of New York State is just farmland, right? Or just land in general. So we get a lot of leads from very rural places where we might not have even heard of it. So that's been a tool where this is where kind of Chris comes into play. So he's learning. And so these are some of the leads that he's able to learn on. Is in these rural areas to try to, I told right now he's not focusing on the deal. He's focusing on the art of the deal. And if a deal comes out of it, then that's awesome.
Interesting.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit more about that. What the difference between like focusing on the deal versus the art of the deal? What's that mean to you?
Focusing on the deal means you're focusing on how much money you can make. You're not
Mm,
focusing on the person or the seller. So
mm,
the way, people ask me what we do, and sometimes I have a really hard time expressing it to them, because if I said, "Hey, we just solve problems," they're going to be like, "Well, aren't you in real estate?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but the only way we're able to either buy these properties and take them down ourselves or assign them is to solve problems." So the art of the deal it focuses on the prospect, what their problems are, how we can help them, and how we can get them to the finish line. But if you bring
mm.
in the deal is like, what do you want for your home? Or, just focusing on the numbers, the number one, that's not building rapport, but I've realized when you focus on the money, deals don't come. When you focus on the problems, you'll start finding more consistency in closing deals.
Interesting. Yeah, a little bit more counterculture. You have kind of two ways of thinking, two sentiments or approaches from investors. Because some people would just say, "Hey, screw that! Like that's too much time, too much work. I need to know the numbers. Is it a deal or is it not?" What do you say to that?
Keep that
Just not.
attitude, because that makes you more money. Yeah, I mean, I talked to so again about our team dynamics. Dylan was out four wheeling yesterday with his kids, and he forgot about a call, and I was like, "Cool, I'll take the call for him, man. Don't worry about it. Go have fun." And so I talked to a seller for almost 40 minutes, just building rapport. Like, I knew she fits all the pillars, but price, she wasn't ready to hear about what we could buy her home for. So it was just a rapport building conversation. But essentially, and we actually are closing a deal tomorrow, or so it's either tomorrow or do we close it today, where the seller called me back a year later. He's like, "I only called you back because you're the only person who actually talked to me."
Mm,
Like, I knew I couldn't help him, or I wasn't a good fit at the time. And I told him that. And
yeah,
he called me back, and we just got the deal done for him. So like, those
that's awesome.
conversations, you might not see the return now, but again, like, I'm not in for the quick money. This is a long-term wealth build. Wealth building takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So if you can, again, focus on the art of the deal and really building relationships with people, those deals will come back around, and you'll find more consistency.
That's so cool, man. He said you're the only guy that listened to me. That is really cool.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
says, like, "I got all these guys with heavy accents calling me, want to buy my house, man." And he's like, "I saved your number." And it was a long shot. We gave it a go, and I'm thankful that we were able to get it done for him. So
Interesting. Well, I want to talk about some of the impact you're having in Guatemala. This is really cool. But before I kind of switch gears, is there anything on lead gen side, dispo side you want to mention you feel like would be helpful?
no, I mean, like, like I said, my business isn't really sexy, or there's no flashy objects. In fact, my investing strategy is probably the most boringest thing we could talk about. But no, I mean, for the way that marketing goes, if I could give advice, I think I've already said it. If you guys are just getting started or don't know where to start marketing, focus on the one thing that you can afford to do for the longest period of time. That could be networking. I know we know plenty of people who are just doing deals from word of mouth, right? You got to give it time, and you got to be patient. Any marketing channel can work. It's just most people don't give it enough time. So if
Mm.
you can get all the emails from all the real estate agents, if you emailed them bi-weekly, you'd probably start seeing deals coming up, but not until the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
And going back to Chris, when we first got started, he was getting frustrated. I'm like, "Dude, you're not going to start seeing anything happen for like 10 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And we just closed our first deal today, and it's been 10 months. So, if I were to
That's
give
cool.
any advice about marketing, I mean, you got to understand that these things take time, and just focus on one thing and get really good at it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's really cool, man. That's great advice too. Like, just be patient. And I know some people hear that and like, no, I'm gonna pick the quick route, but like, it's true. Almost any marketing channel can work. Texting is
Except
different
for
right
texting.
now. Texting,
Yeah.
cold calling's on its way out too. That's why we'll keep teaching SEO. But anyways, another story. Um, okay, impact. What are you doing in Guatemala? What lights you up, man?
So, back in February, we had my friend Steve Kavanaugh. He has a group, or it's a trip. He leads this. It's called Master Mission. That
Hmm.
that isn't why I started coming down here, but it is one of the things that kind of like feeds my spirit now. So it's a mission trip combined with a mastermind. And so and when people think of mission trip, they might be like, oh, this is church, there's religious. Yeah, there is a religious component to it. But it's a very unique, some people call them vision trips. But it's a very unique
That
opportunity.
means something different in Southern Oregon, a vision trip.
Yeah. All right. Yeah,
No, I'm just giving you a hard time. I hear you.
No, not that type of vision trip, man. Although that would be an adventure in itself. So,
Yeah.
now you got my mind going.
Sorry, I just totally threw you off.
I'm thinking, I'm like, what are they doing down there?
It sounds really cool though. The master mission thing, mission trip and mastermind in one. I've never heard of that.
It's a great combination where you get to come down here, learn about the culture. So there's a lot of cultural experiences. There's part fun, so it's kind of part vacation, cultural immersion. That cultural immersion is learning about not only just having fun and enjoying the dining, but learning about the culture, like how do they thrive, what the economy is like, family dynamics, and ultimately there's a school that is fully funded by donations. So our friend Hannah is the director. My wife is the director of the board, and the funding. So you can either sponsor a student, sponsor classrooms, or just donate money. But it's a holistic approach to education. So their books get paid for, toothpaste, toothbrush. We deliver food to the families. In fact, a lot of the donations are the only reasons some people made it through COVID and kept their kids in schools, because we were constantly, the food was coming to the families. So
and you could see that, like you saw that. You're there, boots on the ground.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's a very refreshing and humbling thing when you're delivering food to people living in, very small homes made out of brick. Some of them are up on hills where there potentially could be landslides and just take out the properties. But families basically can't afford to send their kids to school here because the kids typically need to work. And so the part of this vision or the master mission is to, immerse people in the culture, have some fun, learn more about the school, but ultimately to help raise funds to keep that school funded in order to maintain the level of excellence. And it is probably one of the best or better schools. This was just on Facebook the other day, and I don't remember the percentages, but there's a certain amount, like there's so many jobs here readily available, but it's the reason why Guatemalans aren't able to take those jobs is because of their inability to speak English. And so that is one of the things that the school does, is help the kids learn English. And then they're partnered with another school who takes that to the next level to try to teach English in order for these kids to take jobs. And we were talking about labels, so there are cultural labels here too. So they also have to grow out of these cultural labels in order to understand that there are many opportunities for them here.
Tell me more about the cultural label thing.
Well, kids grow up just selling food on the street or being street vendors or understanding there's a cap on not only their education, but the amount of money that they can make or they cap their dreams. Like my dad delivers food. So that's all I can do. There's nothing else out there. That's just one example I could think of. So there's just a lot of limited beliefs where, they have not been exposed to opportunities. And so just opening their mindset and changing their mind to be able to focus on those things.
That is really cool. Yeah. It sounds very efficient too, like the way you got them through school, teach them English literacy, get them into another school to keep progressing. That's really awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of fun too. We have a lot of fun, and in those trips, so we also are doing masterminds on those trips. So we're coming back to the house, we're sitting down and we're focusing on business and focusing on serving each other. And again, just being in that atmosphere where if you have a problem in life or business, you're able to be vulnerable and share those and have a group kind of help pull you out of those things.
Yeah, that's really cool. The mastermind, it sounds like before we hit record, we were talking about chocolate broccoli. the chocolate, they got you in with like the mastermind, come see the culture. And then it's like the broccoli, hey, there's a real need here. You can get involved in it. That's cool.
Yeah, we're not shy to call people out on BS fluff of why they want to be there. We get to the nitty gritty, and that's why I love the people that I've been able to put around, and that's why I've been able to grow so quickly. Is just, someone's going to tell me if I'm doing something crazy, or they're going to call me out and, hey, Brett, that's not your problem. Let's dig a little bit deeper, really figure out what it is. So, interesting. And again, this is my 5th year, essentially in a new business, and I have zero debt. zero personal debt. You know, I have a really big line of credit I can use from to purchase properties. I have lenders that we can borrow money from. The business is making really good money. I have time flexibility. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
if I can do it, anyone can do it. And that's in the course of 5 years. You know, and then I own almost all my rentals free and clear except for one now. So being able just to
Yeah.
pay those down, and you know, $400 or $350,000 might not be a lot of money for people, but like clearly it's going pretty far for me, for me.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
that's really cool, man. So I'm curious, if you didn't have that impact element, I know the mastermind's been super valuable. That's allowed you to keep going. You probably wouldn't be in this business without that, sounds like. If you didn't have the impact element, if you weren't giving back to these schools, these missions, how would your business be differently? What would things look like for you?
now we're gonna get down a different vision, spiritual journey. You know,
Yeah.
like you don't have to be a Christian to understand that money doesn't equate to happiness. So you could make all the money in the world, and there's probably more people out there that know millionaires or billionaires and understand how miserable they are and the regrets that they've shared for not spending more time with family and friends. And so there's more to life, and I'm learning, you know, just being married last year, like, you know, there's more to life than just making money. So like, where
Yeah.
can I have an impact? We bring that into seller conversations too. So
Mm.
like that, you know, that's a mission field in itself. Cause again, it's going back to solving problems. You're focusing on serving someone as opposed to looking at them like a dollar sign.
Yeah.
And so just trying to figure out like ways to be fulfilled in those, you know, serving avenues has really helped with the impact. And without that, like, I don't know, man, it's like fuel. If you don't have that, um, yeah, maybe I would be lost in trying to find fulfillment in making more money. So yeah, I think it's just really helped to keep me balanced and to stay true to my vision.
Mm. That's really cool, man. I appreciate your sharing. I didn't want to assume, and I don't want to make some statement because I'm not you. I don't want to make some statement like,
Yeah.
oh, well, you wouldn't be doing this without the impact element. But man, you know, I do this podcast, I talk with investors from all over the country, hundreds of investors, and uh, what I see is that the guys, the people who are sustaining this business, who are really content on some level. I know none of us are ever like, oh, everything's figured out, everything's
Yeah.
dialed in, I'm good, I'm set. That doesn't happen. But the ones who are sustaining, like, there is an impact element. There's something bigger than yourself. I'd like to say that selflessness is sustainable. When you're doing something for other people, it kind of pushes your vision further. Because at the end of the day, like, you're right, man, a dollar amount just won't be enough. You know, there's very big diminishing returns on income for happiness, if that makes sense.
I really like how you phrase that. And so when before I started the wholesaling business, I'd mentioned I was flipping, I had rentals, I had and I had a partner, which was a whole nother story. We had like a close to $1 million portfolio that I ended up just walking away from because I didn't want to take on the debt. But I had my own rentals, I had a property management company. For the most people, they're like, you're doing it. You're doing pretty well. But I wasn't, I was trying to build a rental portfolio to live off of. And essentially I gave that up because I didn't want that frustration. But when I focused on wholesaling, I had a lot of money in my bank account for many years. I was afraid to spend it. I didn't know what to spend it on. In fact, I just started investing it at the end of last year because I found a better account. That was another problem.
Yeah.
But I had all this money in my account, and I got to realize, like, never made no money. I've never had this much money in my bank account, but it didn't do anything. It didn't make me feel better about myself. It didn't excite me, and that like blew my mind. So I'm like, that also like encouraged me to focus on things that are fulfilling, which to me are serving and helping other people. So yeah. So I don't know if other people have experienced that, but I had the money. I mean, that might not be a lot of money to the people, but it's more money than I had ever made or had before. And it actually put more pressure on me because now I had to be a good steward of it.
Yeah.
But it actually stressed me out even more.
Yeah. More money, more problems.
Yeah.
It's been around for eons, but it's true in that case. Interesting, man. Well, I want to bring it to a close here. I really appreciate you answering that honestly. I know that there's a lot of listeners who like this really resonates with them. Maybe they're on a similar journey. Maybe they're starting out, figuring out how to do marketing, or maybe they're that guy trying to scale, and it's just not enough. So I appreciate you sharing the struggle, some of what's worked, and just the fact that, hey, none of us have it all completely figured out, but we're all trying to figure this out together. So
exactly.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, you got it, Brady. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Sure. Yeah. So I do have an Instagram. It's at flip4freedom. You can share my email. I'm incredibly responsive on email. It's brett@brettbuysrochouses.com, but I'm sure Brady will provide that. Yeah. So Instagram is a great place if you want to follow me there. And then I'm always happy to talk and chat via email and schedule a Zoom call if that's something anybody ever would want to do.
Perfect. All right. I'll put that in the show notes. Brett at brettbuysrockhouses.com, rochouses.com. Thanks again for hopping on, man. Anybody listening, if you like this episode, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Do us a favor there. Share with a friend. If you got any questions or feedback, reach out to me, brady@carrot.com. I'd love to chat too. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next episode.